They'll managing. Direction and support.
Hi, this is Christina with San Diego Real Estate Live, and welcome to our channel. Today we are live with ADU Gurus. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks so much, Christina.
Thanks
for having me.
Thanks so much for coming. I'm so excited to talk to you about the ADUs. We have clients that are so excited about them. They come look at property and they're always asking me, what is an ADU? Where can I put this ADU? Can I use it do it with my garage? Can I do this? We're going to answer all these questions today. But I first want people to kind of know who you are and a little of your story of how you got into doing ADUs, and just a little bit about your business, just really quick.
Sure. My name is Lisa. I own ADU Gurus. I started ADU Gurus because I'm a land use policy nerd, really. And I love understanding how things work, what property owners can do. Since about 1995, I've been involved with different aspects of land use, whether it was SANDAG, smart growth, and density, all the way to being a planning commissioner for the city of La Mesa, an appointed position that looked at variances in land use again. Fast forward to today, and when these laws came down the pipe in 2017, it really grabbed my attention. And since then, I've been helping people understand what they can build, where they can build it, and how to build it.
Well, let's kind of start there. Like, where can somebody build an ADU, like in their city?
Sure. So a lot of questions I get are, can I build an ADU in my backyard? And if you're a single family property owner, you are now a real estate developer. So when you ask me, can you build an ADU in your backyard and you have a single family home, it's not where or if, it's yes, you can.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I love that. Mm-hmm. And is there anything about like building it in your backyard? Are there any laws or like any kind of restrictions about like being against a fence, or maybe just those kinds of things? Can you give people kind of
so what happened, just in a brief nutshell, is the state made the mandate, the state made the rule. Usually local governments, whichever city you live in, whether that's San Diego or Del Mar or El Cajon, it doesn't matter where you live, wherever you live, your city would give you certain ideas of what you could put in your backyard.
Okay.
But in 2017, the state said, no, you guys have to allow these ADUs in your backyard. And the ADU stands for an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay.
So it's an accessory to an existing structure. And the first rule was that you could be 4 feet from your side and rear setback. Those were the minimum allowances.
Okay.
So no city in the state of California, no jurisdiction can say you have to be less than or more than 4 feet from your side and rear setback.
Oh, very nice. What about, like, can you build more than one ADU in your backyard? What's the laws and restrictions on that?
So there are 2 types of ADUs that you can definitely build, and one of them is a junior accessory dwelling unit and one is a detached accessory dwelling unit. You can have, so if you have a single family home, you can actually build both. You can build a JADU or a detached. Detached means it's not touching any of the walls on your house, and attached means that it is. It can either be carved out of your existing floor plan or it can be added onto.
Okay. That's interesting. You said JADU. What's the difference between a JADU and an ADU?
So a JADU is a junior accessory dwelling unit, and it just means that it's attached to the existing property.
Okay.
It doesn't mean anything other than that. So it differentiates it, and instead of saying I can have 2 ADUs on my property, you can have a JADU and an ADU.
Okay. What if somebody wants to get an ADU to maybe use it as like an income property? Maybe they want to do it as like a short-term rental. What are the restrictions on that?
So this is something that I get asked a lot. It's, can I build an ADU and Airbnb it? Mm-hmm. And so there's 2 types of renting, right? Long-term renters and Airbnb. That's what I think about short-term, or 30 days or less. That's a jurisdiction thing, right? So whatever city you live in, they're going to tell you whether you can do an Airbnb or not. And most of them say no. And the city of San Diego is a lottery system. And if you're lucky enough to have one of those tickets, the winning ticket, then you can use your ADU as an Airbnb rental. Palm Springs is very restrictive about their Airbnbs. So there's lots of that. But long term, most people are doing 30 days or longer, and that's the purpose. It generates a great deal of rental revenue.
Okay, that's interesting. I know that like certain areas like La Jolla have restrictions on like height limitations. PB does too. What are the ADU limitations on like the height of it? Like how high can you go? What are
Sure.
some of the information that you
So
can
this
share
is a
with
great
that?
question. I get this question a lot. Again, this is a state mandate. So since 2017, the state has come along each subsequent year and made other rules. And height is the most recent one is in January 1 of 2023, actually this year. The minimum height or the minimum allowance that a state said that the city had to allow was 16 feet, which is kind of restrictive if you wanted a second story on your ADU. As of January 1 this year, it's 2023, it's the minimum height or the minimum allowance is 18 feet, which is a nice height to allow a second story. If you're within the city limits of San Diego, you can build a 2-story, 2-unit ADU that's detached from your property on a single family lot. So it gets it sounds complicated, but it's really cool because these allowances are there. If you attach the ADUs to your home, you can go up to 25 feet.
Okay.
So, and to differentiate between La Jolla and anywhere else, La Jolla is within the city of San Diego's jurisdiction and oversight. So the city of San Diego is very lenient and allow quite a bit more than even the state makes them allow. So San Diego is a great place to, if you want to build ADUs, San Diego in the city limits is great.
I think a big question that we get too is with an ADU, how much do they cost?
Another great question. You're just full of good questions. So ADUs depends on what you're looking at, right? If you have, a Bokel and Sneed architecture, $10 million property in Del Mar, and you're trying to build an ADU on it, you're going to want to match that, and you're going to want to find an architect with that DNA. So that's going to be very expensive. And it could be the same square footage as the person wanting to build it in San Diego, right? Or somewhere else that's a little bit less restrictive as far as cost is concerned. But I like to tell people, and contractors will probably shoot me for actually putting a number in front of it, but I say between $275 and $500 a square foot.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. Another question that I get from my clients that kind of coincides with this is the permit situation. Could you kind of talk about the permit situation?
Sure.
Do they need a permit? How does that work? Does your company help them with that? Can you kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the process to build an ADU is, yes, you want it permitted, and you being the real estate specialist, when you permit an addition of any kind, whether it's putting in a pool in or adding a family room, if you permit it, it will add real estate value because then the assessor will count it in the tax basis.
Okay.
So same with an ADU. You don't want to be building ADUs without a permit, and also you don't want to be building ADUs without a permit because they're so much better and so much more cost effective to get. So if you're going to build anything under 750 square feet, whether that's attached or detached, you are not subject to impact fees. And impact fees are developer fees. They're development impact fees. And now you don't have to pay those as of 2020 because the state said so to the local government. So it doesn't matter where you're building it, under 750, you don't have to pay impact fees. And to give you an example of the cost of an impact fee, prior to 2020 in the city of Vista, for example, it would cost you $14,825 just to shake their hand.
Oh, wow.
So it's a big savings. That costs less. Your
definitely.
plans may cost less than that to get. So you get your plans and you have an architect design it with you if you'd like that. And from there we do structural plans and they have to have environmental requirements like Title 24. We take all that and we submit it to the city and we go through the permit process. And from there, once we have a permit, we can build your ADU.
So timeline-wise, because we're talking about permits and all this stuff, and it sounds like a lot, but maybe not. I mean, how long does it take? So if I decided to have you come over, do a consultation at my house, talk to me about the ADU, I'm sure you do a walk around and all of those things as well, measure, kind of get the quote and everything going. What's the timeline from when we go, hey, let's do this, I'm ready to do this, to actually being able to walk into my new ADU?
About 14 months.
Okay, that's great.
A lot of things go into the process of, we do a lot of the things you just mentioned, But I always say from concept to keys, that's our slogan,
Okay.
is about 14 months. And sometimes it's a little bit less because the cities are mandated to get us back information in a shorter amount of time than they would on any other type of project that you're doing.
Okay.
But I want to set realistic expectations,
Yeah.
and I would say 12 to 14 months.
Perfect. So I guess the biggest question is ROI, right?
Mhm.
What is my return on investment
Sure.
on this ADU that I'm building? So value-wise and everything, how much is this gonna raise the value of my house? Is there a way to be able to kind of determine that?
Yeah, so one of the, I get asked this question quite a bit, and let's say you paid $500,000 for your home that's currently worth $1 million, and you had to borrow $250,000, or you spent $250,000 on this ADU. So now you're $750,000 into the property, yet you're only 75% loan to value, if you will. But the value now is $1,250,000 because you've added a secondary property, and you don't always experience the same amount of value in your property that you've spent on the ADU, but you will increase the value of your property. It doesn't matter, it will always go up.
Okay.
It just by whether, and you're the market specialist, so
Right.
you're gonna refer to you for valuation of the current house.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not gonna go up the same amount the market is, but it will increase the value of your house. It will never decrease the value of your house.
Okay, that's amazing. I love that. And of course, adding square footage with permits and everything like that is always gonna add square footage to, or value to
That's
your
correct.
home, correct? So-
And then, but also the functionality of it, of
Yeah.
actually having 2 units, right?
Right.
It does. People
which is a
want
huge
that.
selling point
Absolutely.
as well. So when resellability.
Mhm.
So I'm so grateful that you came. I want to ask you one more question. Is there anything else that you think our listeners would really want to know about ADUs that we haven't covered today?
Yes, taxation and appraisal.
Okay.
So taxation, people always ask me, will they reassess my property? They will not reassess your property. So once you build your ADU, the tax assessor gets information from the city that you've applied for the permit from, and they value that permit. So they may value the permit at $200,000. The best example I can share with your viewers is that if they put a pool in their property, the contractor applies for a permit, the city places a value on that permit, and the tax assessor will increase your tax basis by that amount.
Okay.
Nobody comes out and reassesses.
Okay.
So even though you're experiencing a great value increase in your property,
Right.
you won't be taxed, you won't be reassessed. And the appraisal part is that appraisers that have to come out and see that that you have 2 units now and they want to appraise the property. It's great to work with somebody like you, Christina, because you have that knowledge
Yes.
of the market. And sometimes the appraisers aren't educated on exactly what that looks like. Oh, and I'll end with this. When you do build it, you should make sure that the county tax assessor puts 2 buildings in the notes on the property now instead of 1,
Okay.
because that will help the appraiser
Okay.
substantiate his findings, his or her findings.
Yes.
If there's
Great
only one
information.
if there's only 1 unit on the property, they have a hard time explaining why the property cost or is valued more than your neighbors.
Okay. That's
And
great
that's-
information.
That's it.
Well, thank you again so much for
You're
coming.
welcome.
Could you let our viewers, if they needed to get a hold of you, they had some more questions, or maybe even wanted to get a quote, how would they contact you?
They could call me. My number is 760-313-1000. Try to keep that easy. And Lisa at adugurus.com.
Perfect.
And
And it's www.adugurus.com.
That's right.
With an S.
with an S.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at San Diego Real Estate
Thanks
Live.
for
Thank
having
you
me.
for coming. It was just amazing. It's great information.
Yeah.
I think our viewers really want to be educated and understanding about ADUs. It's a huge question we get in San Diego. And again, thank you all for joining us. Please subscribe and like the video. And we will see you on our next San Diego Real Estate Live.
Thank you.
Bye.